declaration will be transferred or carried into this supplement document, because I fear, please assure me that we are not being hijacked by GFMD at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. What I hear from especially two of the last recommendations, there seems to be concerns that the statement as it is doesn't reflect the conversations that were had in the actual workshop that addresses specifically questions related to the GFMD process and the high-level dialogue process. If I am not mistaken, that was one of the last workshops that was held this afternoon. I mean, you can just check the schedule and see that it actually ended at 6 p.m. today, more or less. So I am definitely committed to make sure that we review specifically the notes and the recommendations that came out from that particular workshop to make sure that if it needs to be changed, that we do. I mean, that we change it. And again, I mean, I think that the notion of a 5-year plan is simply mentioned because we do know that there will be a high-level dialogue this next year that will involve, I mean, a several-year planning stage, and we cannot just be spectators, I mean, to that particular development. But it does not necessarily suggest that anybody or anyone here is bound to follow, I mean, any plan that you obviously haven't taken part in designated, because it's not even a written plan as I speak. So again, I mean, the value of mentioning this particular item is simply that we keep it in mind as one of the tasks that not the social forum on migration, but every one of our organizations who are participating here should probably keep in mind as to figure out how do we go about relating into these issues. Now, I don't see anybody else standing, and I think it is fine. Oh, but you already made use of the word. I mean, I do want to make sure that if there is people who already spoke, that we give a chance to anybody who may not have already spoken. And actually, there is a lady back there standing. So I'd like to go with you first. Ma'am.
My concern also is the same with what the guy had said, because I was I look at the as I was reading the declaration, the number 29 has stated about the 5-year plan. Of course, that 5-year plan has the basis why the declaration has to include the topics about the HLD or the high-level dialogue. So what are the basis of this? Of course, I cannot bind myself or my organization in a document wherein there was a stated 5-year plan and high-level dialogue without me knowing what was the content of this 5-year plan. Secondly, with regards, if we want to have a document, we can just state what has happened in this conference, what was the 3 recommendations, but we cannot explicitly state major recommendations actually that would bind us in our organization with that recommendation, and also binding our organization with a document which do not have the necessary analysis of the situation. I think if the concern is, if this is a major concern about the analysis in the labor export policy, the migration, the GFMD, if it is not clearly stated in a document, I cannot bind myself to that, and also my organization. I'm just registering my fear about what will happen with this document if the body here wasn't able to scrutinize every part of the document, and also the one being questioned, the 5-year.
Thank you. Like, actually, before I go on this this issue, let me read to you again what the document that we presented to you actually says. It says, toward this end, we call on the upcoming UN High-Level Dialogue on Migration and Development to adhere to a 5-year action plan that advances protections of the human rights of migrants and links to a post-2015 development agenda that affirms the right to migrate and remain at home with decent work and human dignity.
Excuse me,
So,
that was
just to clarify, we're not suggesting a 5-year plan for this group or the
excuse
forum.
me, that was precisely my point, because it was stated there to adhere to a 5-year action plan. So what was the content of that action
No,
plan?
listen, we are simply calling on the UN to plan long-term on these issues based on the principles that are laid out. So we're not suggesting that we do a plan or that anybody here adheres to such a plan. And if there were to be a plan...
precisely, because we do not know exactly what was the content of the 5-year
Well, hold on
plan.
one second.
That was the question.
I think we heard you already, so let me actually be very democratic on this. Can you please raise your hands if you are comfortable with what I just read and we presented to you? Can you please raise your hand? Because one thing in democracy that we cannot do is let one or two voices take hostage the opinions of the majority. So I think we heard you already. We appreciate your comment. And also, let me say the following. When you introduce yourself, please tell us who you are, what organization you are with, so that we also know who is talking in this specific exercise that has the purpose of simply fine-tuning what we presented to you. So, okay, you're in line, and I have 2 more people that I have not spoken. I invite you to introduce yourself and please tell us who you represent. Ma'am, you go first. Hold on one second. I'm chairing this, and I want to give priority to people who haven't yet spoken. You already spoke. So we're going to wait to hear the 2 people who have not spoken, and then if nobody else is here that hasn't yet spoken, we'll definitely come back to you. Okay? Sure. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm here with Tikra. I like the declaration. I think I might make my own, but I wondered whether the spirit of the document captures sort of like how we might feel about our own power and why we come to this space of the World Social Forum. Because when you make a declaration, it's like you talk out to people who have power. But I think like in this room we have a lot of power as migrants or families of migrants. So I wonder whether there could be an added point just about how we commit to each other to make spaces for this kind of discussion and to mobilize on actions together. Because I think when we talk out and we say that they have all the power at the UN or they have all the power at the GFMD, we don't really mean that, because that's why we come together at the World Social Forum.
Excellent suggestion. And I think that that's one that I don't think anybody will disagree. And as far that's partly what I meant earlier when I said, I mean, if you can help us fine-tune not only the words but the spirit, I think that kind of comment is very helpful, because I believe very much as you do that there is power in a room like this, and there was power every single time that we were deliberating together over the last 3 days. Ma'am, back there?
Hi, my name's Julie Clark, here from the Home Organisation in Singapore. I want to echo the thanks to the organising committee, both for the Mesa Forum and also for this declaration. I'm sure, like myself, many others in the room have faced the challenge of trying to draft a document that reflects a consensus across many different interest groups. And I sympathise with what you've tried to do, and I'm really impressed with the result. One thing that a lot of the interventions this evening has reflected is my own concern this week, that in talking a lot about forging unity, forging collaboration, finding solidarity with others across nations, continents in our struggle, what has perhaps been lacking is discussion of process. discussion of how exactly we practically go about implementing that, how we forge that unity in a practical sense. And I wonder whether just when we think forward to the next meeting, whether time could be allocated to more practical discussions, separating substance from process, so that we're not left at the end of the forum with these kind of discussions, which I think sadly bring down the tone of what's been a very positive week. And that's just a suggestion for the next meeting.
I appreciate it. I think it's one suggestion many of us share. You know, there was also a couple of comments, irrespective, to what the purpose of them was, about lack of analysis. Let me just remind you, this is not the first World Social Forum on Migration. This is the 5th World Social Forum on Migration, and there has been plenty of analysis done. And we do not erase, the accumulated analytical powerhouse that has been building over these past, years, celebrating the World Social Forum on Migration. So just keep in mind, that we are trying to echo as much as we can, precisely, the lessons from previous years. So, sir? Okay. They are freezing here. Does anybody have a blanket?
Okay, thank you for recognizing me. I'm Angelito Natividad of the Asia Pacific Mission for Migrants. Now, the reason I'm still here is because you answered only my second question, and I'm still dissatisfied about how you will go about highlighting the fact that a lot of the participants here are critical of the GFMD.
No, I believe I addressed your question not when you asked it, but when somebody else brought it up. It seems to me that there is a significant amount of animosity, to say the least, about the Global Forum on Migration and Development. However, I remind you again, there was a workshop specifically focused on the Global Forum on Migration and Development and the high-level dialogue that just ended at 6 p.m. I am committed on behalf of the organizing committee to take a harder look at what came out from that particular session and to ensure that the way